So this film was a film I was not expecting, a moment in history that I knew nothing about, and it was beautifully done. I'm really excited to talk about this one. So let's jump into my review of the new film, I'm Charlie Walker. Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the film I'm Charlie Walker, coming on video on demand June 10th. And I think it will be in some theaters. I actually seen a poster of it when I went to see Bob's Burgers. So like, I definitely think it's going to be in theaters as well too. So totally, if you get a chance to check it out in theaters, do so. But if not, video on demand June 10th. And that's nationwide, so I think it had a little bit of a limited release already. But so this film was a film, like as I said, this is a moment in history, black history, that I knew nothing about. I've never heard of Charlie Walker, who's still alive, by the way. So seeing him at the end of this film, and kind of reflecting back into his moments was really dope. But in playing Charlie Walker is Mike Colter, who I'm a huge fan of. Something about him just feels like we're like boys. Like, I met him once, but I just feel like something about him just feels like we're boys. And I think it's just because he's such a good individual. Others have said it. He was really nice to me, and so on. And so seeing him, who I think he is so charismatic, really bring this character to life in a way that was so pleasant. Such good chemistry across the board. Overall, fantastic job. He carries this film. But also, I think that, I should also mention that his co-star is Safiya Fredericks, who plays his wife in this, who also narrates this because his wife was there with him the entire time here. I thought that was a very interesting dynamic that the two of them had together. It's almost as if them two have known each other for years. They have amazing chemistry, very organic, very easily perceived on screen. Really liked it. And Safiya as the narrator, I think her voice is majestic, so it was very soothing hearing her kind of narrate the events of this story, because this story, based on a true story, is about Charlie Walker, who in 1971, if you've ever heard, because I think I did hear about this, in terms of the San Francisco coast, where the two oil tankers collide and then the massive oil spillage. And obviously there was a cleanup effort needed. And you have Charlie Walker, who is a trucking and construction entrepreneur who steps up to make a change. And here's the thing. Sounds cool and all, but understand that black folks wasn't given opportunities to be in prominent positions, to one, make money, to one, make history, and two, just to be able to use their abilities to make change. Every bit of this story was about Charlie being able to somehow navigate into trying to make a difference. It was never about him. It was a black male who was in a crowd of nothing but white males who just never wanted to give him an opportunity. He continuously had to prove himself. Every way you looked, there was somebody like, oh, what are you doing here? Or like, oh, you're not that. But he was a boss. He owned his own company, Charlie Walker Construction. It was him, self-named and whatnot. And with that, just racial discrimination left and right, like from the cops, from other construction workers, and other folks who were trying to make a cleanup effort, and so on. But him solidifying a spot of making a difference, in the ways that he did. He had to be clever. He had to be unique. He had to come from it with a different approach than what the others wasn't expecting. He had to kind of play the game a little bit in order to do so. And he made a lot of money in his efforts. And it was a very crafty, shifty story, but I loved it. And considering that, the impact that he's made in this cleanup, was really dope. And it stars some other folks that I want to give a shout out to. Greg Sipes, who plays a hippie in this. I mean, it's just fitting for him. But I gotta say, just from that alone, if I had to get a display of what I believe method acting was, it would be this film. Like, like I just feel like some people were just so natural and almost improv all of their lines that it was just really good. Like I loved how even characters were even smaller roles were just able to shine. I thought that, you know, Peggy by Monica Barbero was another character who was just able to just instantly capture you, even with the smallest roles. And then Dylan Baker as Mr. Bennett, who was not always so pro Charlie. You know, they had a tug of war battle amongst themselves, and it was very uniquely cool to see Mr. Walker kind of play chess with Mr. Bennett. And I thought they had some very good moments together, especially towards the end where Charlie ultimately deploys his ultimate trap, which I thought was so cool and whatnot. But like I said, you know, with him, Charlie only owning 3 trucks, and, you know, being able to really make an impact and being in the efforts of being able to make a cleanup effort on this was super unique, super special. And like, I just loved the story. It was so beautifully done. So many good moments, so many good laughs. I love the art style of this film, you know, going back because this film was in 1971. So it was presented to you like a classic 70s film. It was a good time, and I think it's certainly worth a watch. So, you know, Mike Colter makes it a must watch, but I think everybody else involved as well. Dylan Baker, Safiya Fredericks, Mark, Leslie Ford, a lot of folks who just really came together to make this project work. And for an hour and 30 minutes, it feels like a breeze. I swear this film was much shorter than that. It was so just so well paced and so on. It was very easily to enjoy. And while you're watching and having a laugh and whatnot, you're learning some history, some Black history at that too. And I think, you know, I love the fact that we're starting to see more and more Black history be uncovered. A lot of these stories that you only hear from like your grandparents, and maybe only certain few individuals may heard the story. So I love the exposure of this story being able to give some light, and Charlie Walker being alive to be able to witness that. So that's really good. So, and let me be very clear before we get out of here on this review. Like, Charlie did have to break rules because that was the only way he was going to get a fair chance at anything. Like, Black people, it was never going to be a handout. So he had to kind of go about things in a unique way, breaking some rules in order to get opportunities. And I just got to say, like, Mike Colter's, like, you know, banter with all these different characters and actors really makes this so enjoyable. And like, with that, even with him breaking rules and whatnot, you're still you get behind it because you're just like, oh, I understand. You start to almost to a point just forget that this is a Black male in the industry, that there's really no opportunities for Black males, Black truckers, in order to make money, to make a living off of this. And that's so cool because he always carried himself as a boss. He was a boss. So he paid himself like a boss because everybody else was trying to pay him like a trucker. And like I said, with Mike Colter leading this film, it was just so well done. And all these characters and events in this film that this is based on, and real individual and whatnot, everything's completely fictional, but still, it doesn't take away anything from the film at all. You get the message, you get the purpose, you get the whole dynamic and almost the severity of society at the time for a Black male. And then the biggest mystery with him is, with all the money he's made, you know, what did he do with all this money? And money made him happy, but he did what he felt was best. And it was a good, noble thing. A lot of noble things, you know, taking care of his family and whatnot. But even after this spill, Charlie Walker Trucking continued to flourish for many years, becoming one of the most successful Black trucking contractors in the company, but also using this platform to really be a beacon of hope and really present and get more opportunities and representations for Black truckers and whatnot. And with all of this, come on now, you know this got the attention of folks, especially the FBI. He's done some time, but he's out living his best life at 88 years old in San Francisco. So, you know, a really good story, a really must watch. Fantastic performances up and down the board, laughs, smiles, you know, cringe, all the sorts of different things, you know. But like, either way, it's definitely a must watch. But check it out, folks. As I said, video on demand. You can check it out. It will be in theaters as well, June 10th. Jump in the comments. Let me know your thoughts about it when you do. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.
Recounts.